playing Is It Phoenix, and he's taking on John Zug again, another supporter of the 4-color Gates deck.
Yeah, and we're going to see this Gate deck put to the test. This is that Phoenix deck from Kevin Jones' side. If that turn 2 Goblin Electromancer goes uncontested, he can spew off a bunch of pressure super fast and then use a host of cheap counter spells, to, especially after sideboard, to be able to handle these really expensive interactions. But it looks like we're starting here on Legacy. We're going to get that fixed for you in just a second. That question was rhetorical. Oh, turns out we are watching Legacy. That's going to be Allison Warfield on your left playing Eldrazi Post versus Jack Warner on your right playing Affinity. This is actually not a matchup I think is going to go in Allison's favor here. Chalice of the Void cards like that aren't nearly as good in this matchup. It's going to take a lot of really explosive Eldrazi or a 2/2 Walking Ballista on the first turn.
Yeah, nice little removal spell for the Steel Overseer there. Looks like Warner has a follow-up. It's Karn, turn 2. Is that any good?
Turn 2 card is quite good.
Yeah.
Quite good.
Yeah, so I've been trying to figure out exactly what this Dees thing is that the kids talk about.
Oh, I think you mean Niece's Dees, as in
something along those lines, yeah. So this to me, and I don't know, so please correct me if I'm wrong, this would be Dees plus.
Well, it depends on whether you're plussing or minusing the Karn, but yes, it is currently Dees plus. Maybe next turn it's a Dees minus.
Okay, and we see another Dees follow-up.
All right,
from Allison
here. We
here.
Stop this. I can't keep this up, man. Look, we got a really strong follow-up. A Thought Knot Seer. This is
a fine Magic card. A fine Magic card.
This is what was like basically modern legal for, I don't know, 3 months. Not even 3 months. They decided, this is not okay.
Yeah, the only difference was you didn't take damage from your land when you did this, which is kind of unfathomable in retrospect.
Yeah, but Allison, of course, is also playing those Eldrazi Temples to go along with the Eye of Ugin. But some more 2-mana lands in Ancient Tomb. The rest of the land base is actually pretty sweet. Cloud Post and Glimmer Post allow you to go pretty big on occasion and really hit hard with things like Walking Ballista. Very similar to the colorless Eldrazi decks we occasionally see in Modern, featuring the Tron lands as well as Expedition map.
Yeah, big mana payoffs are looking like Walking Ballista, Endbringer, and Ulamog in Allison's deck. Really cool that she's able to both play this kind of early, disruptive, aggressive game and just go big. This is kind of the spiritual successor to modern Eldrazi-tron. That's what I think of this deck as a very close analog to.
Absolutely, and oftentimes in Modern we see the Eldrazi, the colorless Eldrazi deck really take advantage in many similar ways, actually, by playing things like Walking Ballista with those Tron lands. Allison, of course, taking a step further with access to Eye of Ugin out of the sideboard, able to utilize those Cloud Posts, that extra mana to activate that and go get something as giant and game-ending as Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger.
So Zug is going to take Warner is going to take a bunch more damage from the mana base here, playing Lodestone Golem and cashing in a Lotus Petal, tapping a Mox Opal to play Steel Overseer.
Yeah, of course, hitting that Metalcraft with a Mox Opal by casting the Lodestone Golem first, tapping it for mana, then sacrificing Lotus Petal to cast that artifact Steel Overseer.
Correct. Allison took a draw. She found an Endbringer.
Depending on her hand, she could actually outclass this draw from Warner pretty easily and perhaps even put enough pressure on that Karn to get it off the table. Something like Reality Smasher here would be quite good, though it does get reasonably checked by that Lodestone Golem, but without a chump block from the Steel Overseer, that's a lot of potential damage going at that Karn.
Allison going to deploy Grim Monolith there.
Yeah, effectively just boosting up 1 mana, but that can put her up to 6 here to play something like Endbringer, but instead going with that Reality Smasher. And of course, paying the 1 extra because Lodestone Golem affects non-artifacts, not colorless cards. So the Grim Monolith only costs 2, but that Reality Smasher does cost 6. And both creatures coming here looks like add Jack, put him under a lot of pressure here, and this is turn 3.
Yeah, Allison looking to get aggressive early. Not wanting that Steel Overseer to get out of control, spread its love all around the battlefield. Let's see what Jack's response is here. Can certainly make some blocks if he wants to with the Lodestone Golem. I don't know that it's really doing an effective job of gating Allison on mana.
I mean, that's true, but with the Grim Monolith tap now, Allison does only have access to 3 total colorless mana, as well as the 2 reduction from the Eye of Ugin. So it might actually play a small role here. The problem, though, is that with Jack taking that big chunk, the Ancient Tomb is getting very close to unusable at this point.
Right. So Jack going to go ahead and minus Karn, deploying a 4/4 construct. Mox Opal down in the mana row there.
Yeah, we're going to get the correct token here as well as the correct die. The construct here going to check all artifacts. The Steel Overseer can, of course, put a counter on it. And we'll see if Warner has anything to add to this battlefield before potentially activating that Steel Overseer.
So funny. I think we've gotten used to Karn in decks where they don't have access to a ton of artifacts. And you forget just how powerful that minus can be in a format like Legacy, where there's a ton of free artifacts and powerful creatures like Lodestone Golem running around. Man, does Karn get out of control so quickly.
Oh, absolutely. And oftentimes in Standard, I think I play Karn a lot more aggressively than most people, just because I actually like going minus and creating a pair of 2/2s against the control decks. Because a lot of times they'll answer Karn, and you can either have a card in your hand or some semblance of a threat on the battlefield. And I usually prefer against control decks to have a threat on the battlefield. However, there are a lot of scenarios where I actually, in deck building, choose to play Treasure Map, just so that at certain intervals I can use Karn's minus and put up a large threat over the course of a few turns.
Yeah, I think that's a smart and underappreciated usage for Karn. Standard players, while it's not as powerful as it may be in Legacy, I think standard players are too hesitant to look towards that option on their Karns.
All right, this Steel Overseer pair pretty nicely here with Walking Ballista to potentially take down these large Eldrazi from Allison's side of things. She's going to need something pretty big here in a hurry if she wants to contain this side of the battlefield. But it looks like Jack might just be putting up too much too quickly. Again, this is only turn 4. That turn 2 Karn, the Walking Ballista took care of the turn 1 Steel Overseer. This is turn 4 from both sides.
Turns out when all your lands can tap for 2 mana, you can do some pretty ridiculous things.
Yeah, and the only downside is in deck building, you, have to play artifacts. Oh, no.
Big cost, right?
It's like with Warner's Reclamation. Oh, no, I have to play Instance?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Jack's saying somehow I'll manage with this deck full of artifacts and powerful enablers and powerful synergies all over the place.
Now, Allison does have quite a bit of life to work with, and I could see some scenarios where Jack actually makes an attack that's a little too aggressive and not quite lethal, and that leaves Allison with a chance to peel another Reality Smasher and attack for the win. It's going to be interesting to see how Warner navigates the rest of this game and whether or not Allie can claw back out of it.
Yeah, Jack going to have to consider attacks very carefully, though nowhere near out of gas as the Karn continues to add tremendous bodies.
The Karn continues to burn.
Indeed. Looking at the other matches, you can see both Dylan Hand and Kevin Jones have taken their first games, up 1-0 in both those matches.
It looks like Jack has made a construct here and is in the tank about what to do for the rest of the turn. Settled on a Phyrexian Revoker.
See if we can get what that's naming for you in just a moment.
Seems like Grim Monolith was the point, but we'll get that confirmed in just a moment. Now these 2 active Steel Overseers, pretty big deal.
Oh, yeah. Just the Walking Ballista alone threatening to get out of hand and dramatically change the course of this game. And we have confirmed it was Grim Monolith named with that Phyrexian Revoker. Jack doing a lot of counting here, and understandably so. This is a dense board. He has to consider a lot of counter swings, a lot of vulnerabilities.
I didn't even take into consideration this is a potentially lethal attack this turn, or at least lethal-ish, where Allison might have to chump block. this construct attacking is coming in for 9 right here. If like the loathsome golem attacked 2, a couple activations from Steel Overseer could have potentially ended the game.
Yeah, I think unblocked it still would have been enough to end the game, and I think Allison recognized that. Scoops him up. Gonna say instead we will play some sideboarded games, and man, you don't expect to see these kind of big mana decks go to war in Legacy. It doesn't happen very often. They are a portion of the field, but a small portion, so you don't catch a lot of mirror matches. And this, while not being a pure mirror, there are similar strategies at play here, utilizing the 2 mana lands, getting on board quickly.
Yeah, both of these are Chalice of the Void decks, and so when they draw early copies of Chalice of the Void, or in Allison Warfield's case, All is Dust, it's not really what your deck's trying to do, especially against another colorless base strategy. So the Chalice of the Void is definitely going to be coming out here for both sides, and we're going to see if they have the necessary tools to take it over after they get all those bad cards out of their deck.
Yeah, so why don't we look at Allison's sideboard here. We're dealing with 1 Basilisk Collar, 3 Ratchet Bombs, 2 Ensnaring Bridge, 4 Thorn of Amethyst, 4 Leyline of the Void, 1 Emrakul, the Promised End. Todd, what do you like here?
Okay, so Ensnaring Bridge can save you from those giant constructs and things like that, but I think Allison's deck is a little more aggressively tilted than Jack Warner's Affinity strategy, so I'm not really loving it. I think the Basilisk Collar is okay. The Ratchet Bombs can clean up a lot of those 2 mana cards you saw come down, and potentially, maybe for 0 take care of all the construct tokens or even Mox Opals that Warner could deploy. As far as that, though, things like Thorn of Amethyst, Leyline of the Void, they don't really have a place in this matchup. So Allison's going to have trouble getting all of those kind of mediocre cards out of her deck in this particular matchup.
Right. What I would suggest to you is it's possible that on the play, Allison still wants some number of Chalice of the Void, attempting to deal with those 0s out of Affinity.
Oh, wow. No, that's actually a great point. Chalice of the Void on 0, locking out Lotus Petal, Mox Opal. There might be a couple of other things out of the Affinity deck. Looks like just those, but yeah, I mean, for 0, it can definitely slow the opponent down. So yeah, on the play, maybe just cut your All's Dust and like 2 copies of Chalice of the Void and go from there, and leave in the 2 just to name 0 to slow your opponent down.
I don't think it's great, but she doesn't have a lot of options, unfortunately.
Right.
There's a lot of bad cards in her deck and not that many strong cards in her sideboard for this matchup.
All right, and let me be clear. When I say that Allison has bad cards in her deck, I mean for this matchup specifically. Cards like Chalice of the Void, All is Dust, these are for helping you beat the decks that either deploy large battlefields or have a bevy of 1 mana spells. And in this matchup in particular, neither of those cards are ideal.
Spot on. Let's take a look at Jack's sideboard. Jack's packing 4 Leyline of the Void, 3 Ensnaring Bridge, 2 Ratchet Bomb, 2 Sorcerer's Spyglass, 2 Spellkite, 1 Karn, and 1 Umezawa's Jite. As thin as Allison's options are, I actually think Jack's are thinner.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I like Spellskite a little bit here as a way to kind of turn off the Walking Ballistas from Allison's side of things. The Karn side of Urza, I think, definitely just makes big enough creatures that is worth bringing in. Umezawa's Jite can be a way to help you dominate combat, but we get to the rest of the sideboard. We got Ensnaring Bridge again. I don't think that's what you want to be doing here. Leyline of the Void, not for this matchup. Ratchet Bomb actually worse here from the Affinity side of things than the Eldrazi Post side of things, because the Eldrazi Post's casting costs are all pretty high, whereas the Affinity casting costs are all kind of flat, usually around 2, sometimes even just 0, with things like Hangerback Walker sometimes showing up, but really just leaning on Steel Overseer, Arcbound Ravager, Vault Scourge, and Phyrexian Revoker at 2.
Right. So if you're trying to compose your sideboard for your next tournament, why not check out the SCG newsletter? You'll see highlights from some of our best articles, upcoming SCG tour dates and locations. It also lists all the invitational qualifiers near you, as well as game nights. And also you get to see my handsome mug staring right into your soul, into the depths of your sideboarding decisions.
I was going to ask, you still like that soul patch?
No, I have
changed.
Stopped rocking the soul patch currently. This is a very outdated picture, as I mentioned last week, and I think they're just tormenting me with this picture now and forcing me to defend it on a weekly basis.
Honestly, if you don't want that to be the picture on the newsletter, you shouldn't have had a soul patch to begin with.
Listen, Todd.
What, you dig me about my magic
You have made poor deck choices. I have made poor facial hair choices.
Well,
we all have our cross to bear, okay?
I mean, I'm pretty sure in a few years I'm going to look back and be like, why did I go full Amish?
That's true.
You know?
That's true. Something to consider.
You know. I don't know. Well, let's get to the match and see if these players are ready for game 2.
Looks like they're considering their openers here. And we are ready to go. Allison's going to be on the play here. Looks like she has the Eldrazi Temple. And Jack answers with a Vault Scourge. Vault Scourge can really swing the life totals in this matchup very dramatically.
Yeah, and while this Affinity deck in Legacy isn't playing something like Cranial Plating, like you would see, instead leaning on these disruptive artifacts like Thorn of Amethyst and Chalice of the Void, effectively, Vault Scourge, a 1-mana 1/1 flyer, because your life total is not usually in a lot of jeopardy, and at certain points you can just move all in on Arcbound Ravager, or just pump it up via Steel Overseer, and start gaining huge chunks of life against decks that don't have a lot of spot removal.
Here you see Allison able to deploy a very effective answer. She has the Ratchet Bomb on turn 2, possibly slowing down Jack's development if he has a 2-drop heavy hand. Let's see what his follow-up is.
Yeah, it looks like...
there is another 2-drop in the form of Phyrexian Revoker, though, and that can change the effectiveness of Ratchet Bomb very dramatically. You see the point there. It is going to name Ratchet Bomb, therefore shutting it off.
Yeah, this Phyrexian Revoker here, naming that Ratchet Bomb, is going to slow it down quite a bit. And it looks like Allison actually has a second copy that could potentially be locked out right now. Allison's going to need to find something like Walking Ballista to take care of that Revoker so that Ratchet Bomb can become more effective.
Right, bad time to draw the second copy of what would normally be an excellent card in the matchup. Just has something to answer before it can come online. You do see Allison continue to develop her large mana base, though, instead focusing on Locust this game. Locust, a really interesting mechanic, actually banned in the modern format for their power.
The card Cloud Post is not okay. It was deemed too good. Tron, though, Tron lands, those are fine.
Cloud Post can do some messed up stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, so can Tron lands, but they kind of just do one really messed up thing. Cloud Post can do a lot of messed up things.
First Modern Pro Tour, I played an Amulet of Vigor Scape Shift Cloud Post deck. When I had 5 lands, I was able to search out 4 copies of Cloud Post, and I have Ugin. Float 16, spend 7 up to activate. Was that enough? I don't know.
So maybe you got Ulamog as opposed to Emrakul?
Yes.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
It's quite good.
So it sounds like there is potential for this match to be decided a little bit quicker, and we actually want to move you over to what could be the deciding match. We're going to switch games right now.
Yeah.
We're going to head over to Kevin Jones and John Zug as this match plays out. We'll certainly keep you updated on it, but we do want to, if the game is going to be decided, have that for you so you know exactly the outcome. You see a very crowded battlefield.
Yeah. Just say this, one of my least favorite things that ever happens here on the SCG Tour is when a game or a match ends off camera in these team tournaments. So here we have a giant mass manipulation trying to steal a lot of permanents, and a Spell Pierce targeting it. That's a swing.
And it looks like John does not have a response for that. I think he's offering the concession right there.
Those flying creatures, Gate Colossus does not do anything against flying.
And that is going to end the match and end the need for Allison and Jack to finish their match, one of the quirks of team tournaments. So this is what we have now. We're going to see if we can get another match on camera right now. But for the time being, I think it's time for more Brian and Todd show.